Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broadband Universe podcast. I'm Craig Corbin, and it is a pleasure to welcome back Mr. Brian Moon, CEO of PTC, the Pacific Telecommunications Council. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me on. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. You are a busy man, and within the last 6 weeks or so, that would have been an understatement because that would have been about the time that PTC 25 was taking place, one of the biggest events of the year. So glad to be able to catch you after you've had a chance to recover just a bit.
Just a little bit. It was absolutely a fantastic event. It was record breaking on so many levels, and I know we'll touch on that in a minute. But it was a fantastic event. It was great to see our industry come together at the beginning of the year. Our members come together with so much going on in the industry. It just was this really, really good perfect storm of everyone coming together, which contributed tremendously to the amount of people we saw.
For those of our viewers that are not familiar with the Pacific Telecommunications Council and what a global reach that it has,
Yeah.
give us an idea of the number of nations represented, companies represented, and C-level representation.
Yeah, in terms of the organization, just the quick elevator pitch there is we are a nonprofit technically, but we are a member-driven organization driven by member companies. So think of anyone in the digital infrastructure industry. I know that's our buzzword that we use, but think of anyone in telecom, ICT, IT worldwide. If you think of the hyperscalers all the way to the startups, are all members of PTC. The organization was founded over 4 decades ago. We're still headquartered here and was founded here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and our annual conference takes place here. What makes our organization and our annual conference really unique, like you touched on, Craig, is the number of C-suite executives that do attend this year. Officially, we had a record number of registrants, over 4,000 registrants to the conference, but we bring together more than 9,000 people that week on island to come together to talk about the industry and what's going on, to broker business deals, announce big deal partnerships and deals that are happening. But we do bring a large number of C-suites, and I love to use I'm going to give credit to coining the phrase, it's the Davos of digital infrastructure, because we bring together the most important people for a week of really important conversations and really to set the tone for the rest of the year, what's going to happen.
You touched on something there with regard to the amount of business
Yeah.
that is done, and I had the good fortune to attend in 2024, and it was amazing at the conversations that you saw going on. And I know I have heard numbers bandied about, but it's a tremendous amount of the annual deals that are done in the industry that happen right during PTC.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point, and obviously some are closed door business deals that we can't talk about publicly, but
Yeah.
there are ones that were public as well. The two that come to mind immediately: Google continued to expand on their Pacific Connect project, and they were able to announce additional countries that they're going to be landing in with that specific project. One of our PTC member companies, AP Telecom, had a deal that they announced as well. And so all that information can be found on our website in terms of the public deals or publicly announced deals that took place. But you're absolutely right. I mean, where else can you, again, get together in bringing the C-suite together, right? These are the folks who are going to sign the agreements, cut the checks. And they are really setting the tone for the rest of the year with these huge, and these are massive amounts of projects, right? These are multi-million-dollar projects that are happening.
You talked about the wide variety of content that is part of the agenda at PTC, and obviously of tremendous note the topics of data center expansion, subsea cable expansion. You talked about what Google was doing, and artificial intelligence, and all three of those were part and parcel of this year's event. Give us an overview from your perspective.
Yeah, Craig, what's artificial intelligence? Never heard of AI, right? What is that everyone's talking about? But no, you're absolutely right. Starting with AI, obviously top of mind for everyone because it essentially does connect to everything else, right? When you talk about AI, you have to talk about power, then you have to talk about location of build, then you have to talk about the investments going into it. So that's a great segue. I love this quote, and I have it actually written down right here, so I'm going to read it. from, and give credit to Graham Lynch from Comms Day, a partner publication. But they said, PTC has transformed into full-fledged digital infrastructure ecosystem event. The attendees now include private equity players, investment funds, hyperscale executives, and mega property developers, which touches on everything we just talked about. It's the entire ecosystem that's at PTC now. It's not, obviously, there are the data center companies, there are the satellite companies that are coming back now. Subsea has existed for a long time, but we are bringing all the major players together. And that, when we talk about AI, involves everybody. And speaking of AI, we did have Andrea Zhou from NVIDIA, who were really excited about this year. She did extremely well. Obviously, everyone was interested in what she had to talk about as part of her panel session. But then we also had a panel session that kicked off the week in our center stage, talking about private equity, right? Where are these investors looking at next? And then also what the next generation data center looks like. It's what you touched on, Craig, is power, location, and what's the amount of money that's going into it.
You talk about the power component of that data center conversation, and a lot of interesting advances made with the idea of being able to utilize small nuclear reactors to provide service. I saw one story of it may have been in the Northeast here, where a data center is being constructed right next door to a power plant, and there was an attempt to broker a deal to allow them to get power behind the grid even before it left the power station. So a lot of things developing there, and much to look at. But with regard to subsea cable, there has been just a multitude of stories, unfortunately, dealing with cables that have been cut, both intentionally or non-intentionally. I'm sure that was a topic of conversation, and how that component of the industry is having to deal with those situations.
Yeah, it's always funny to me when we talk about industry news. Obviously, folks like yourself and I, who are sort of on the front lines and hear and speak with our members and constituents all the time, we hear about it and talk about it. But I always test it against family and friends. And then now that my family and friends have asked kind of what they kind of had no idea what PTC is, then they start reading about cables being cut, and they're like, what does that mean? Does that mean that particular location doesn't have internet anymore? What are they going to do? So no, you're right. It's certainly it's headline news. As a nonprofit organization, we're neutral. We'll continue to do so, but we'll bring, obviously the players together that talk about those things, right, and talk about those solutions, et cetera. But those types of accidents and those types of events do happen, and that those were topics, and whether they were accidental or the opposite. It certainly was a hot topic on Sunday morning during the submarine cable sessions. Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. You're watching the Broadband Universe podcast, brought to you by Utopia Fiber, built by communities for communities with blazingly fast speeds you can rely on. My guest today, Brian Moon, Chief Executive Officer of PTC, and chatting about the big event, PTC 25, that kicked off the year and is such an important place for people to gather. And I know that so many of the members of PTC really count on this as a way to start their calendar each and every year. And I know that's something that you appreciate.
We do. It's the ideal time of year to kick things off. I mean, from a community standpoint, our members really enjoy getting together, and you can see our industry loves getting together. Our industry is a great networking industry. And there's definitely less than 6 degrees of separation across that. But it is. From a timing standpoint, it's advantageous to our members and our industry to come together at the beginning of the year, because then all those discussions that happen during the week of the conference really set the tone for the next several months, for the next year. And some deals are several years down the road. And so it really is an ideal time.
It all starts with that members soiree the night before the first full day of the event, and then continues all the way through. Always some interesting aspects of the agenda, and one that so many folks are beginning to take part in, and that's the PTC 5-kilometer road race. And this year, setting a record, I believe, for the most money that has ever been raised for your charity. Talk about that.
Absolutely. No, thank you for bringing that up, Craig. It's and thanks first and foremost to Console Connect, who's been a sponsor of the run race for several years now, and Equinix made an additional contribution. But it is a great way to show that not only PTC but our industry gives back. And we've organized that run walk for several years now. We partner here locally with the Make a Wish Hawaii local chapter, and it was a record amount. So we actually, with Equinix's contribution, raised over $20,000 for
Nice.
Make a Wish, which they were very appreciative of. And at the end of the day, it just gives back to these children and young people, and being able to fulfill their wishes and dreams. It's just a terrific story, and it's a great indication and example of how our industry is giving and does care about the local community here.
Positively impacting so many
Yeah.
lives with that. So so glad that that is a part of what is something that folks look forward to each year. When we talk about this particular event that kicks off the year, but last year there was an addition to the calendar of events that the council put on, and it was right in the nation's capital,
Yeah.
PTC in DC. Obviously, it must have been met with a warm welcome, because I see it on the calendar again this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we are going to organize PTCDC for a second year this September, the 4th and the 5th, at the JW Marriott in downtown Washington, D.C., a couple blocks from the White House. But the inaugural event, it was successful. And the reason for that is it is not what we do here in Honolulu. We mention that a lot, and we made
Right.
sure that people understood in terms of setting expectations. But the purpose of PTCDC is a different audience. It is bringing our members together. It's bringing our industry together, but it's bringing them together with government officials, regulators, policymakers, and having a conversation and educating them on what's going on with our industry. Obviously, a lot happened in 2024 in terms of some of the things we talked about a couple of minutes ago, and there's certainly going to be a lot to talk about this year with a new administration on board as well. So it was extremely important. And when our members brought the idea to us last year was, how do we get an opportunity to educate and learn from the government officials, right, our counterparts there? And so it was an extremely useful dialogue. It was an extremely useful networking opportunity, extremely useful education opportunity for both sides to learn from each other. Because obviously, again, as we've been talking about, the internet is everything. It connects everything, connects everyone. Let's make sure that everyone understands what the real issues are before policies are put in place and technologies are created.
To your point, no year perhaps will be more timely
Mm,
to have that event in DC than this year, given
right.
the fact that with the new administration, much will be changed for, just to use an example, the BEAD program,
Yeah.
Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, and how that winds up shaking out for deployment across
Right.
the U.S., but also an opportunity. When we talk about the aspect of PTC being a global organization, the ability then to impact conversations in our nation's capital, and something that I'm so glad to see is part of the agenda. I know that this, from a professional standpoint, is an event that you take great pride in. Personally, I know you have to be so pleased with how PTC as an organization has grown in the years that you have been at the helm.
I am, I'm pretty sure I cannot use my newbie card anymore. So I am that old hat that you mentioned, Craig. But I do give certainly a lot of credit to our board of governors and our advisory council, and a lot of credit to my team.
Yeah.
We have a board and an advisory council that is very supportive of these changes and the direction that PTC is going, and obviously a fantastic team that works with me in executing those tactics. So it's a lot of credit to great people that I have the fortunate opportunity to work with. But I am personally certainly pleased with the direction of PTC. Growth is important, but I will also say that strategic growth is important. So it's not necessarily just growing everything, but how do we grow it strategically and in a way that's going to benefit always our members in our industry?
And when you talk about benefit to members, for organizations that have not taken advantage of becoming a part of PTC, what would you say is the biggest benefit that they would take away from that relationship?
Yeah, first and foremost, we are known for the annual conference, which
Mhm.
PTC is synonymous with. That's usually the easiest sell.
Yeah.
But remembering that we are a membership organization, we have lots of resources that we produce throughout the year, primarily around education and content that we produce online. We do webinars throughout the year as well in terms of content distribution. We also are on the road a lot. So March is actually going to be quite busy for myself and members of our team because we'll be at different locations, at different conferences. So we use those as opportunities to meet our members, but also our members take advantage of the resources we provide on site. So there are things like meeting rooms and things that we produce for them that they can take advantage of. And then throughout the year, we also do on the topic of education. One new program we did this year was a partnership with Columbia Business School. And what that was essentially think of it as a mini MBA. So we're looking to educate and propel the next generation, the C-suite, who are going to be sitting in the C-suite 5-10 years from now. And that was part of the Columbia program. So we have lots of resources, and that's what I would also like to promote. That yes, we have the annual conference that brings everyone together once a year, and now Washington, D.C. as well. But we are a resource throughout the year for different types of activities and programs.
Absolutely. And to that point, have always been impressed with the fact that when we look at the awards component
Mm.
of PTC, that university students and their research efforts are recognized as part of your annual awards presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always a good reminder that the organization was actually founded by academia, right? Or part academia. So we always want to recognize the academic community. And thank you for bringing that up. We do have an emerging scholar program that we continue to recognize these brilliant graduate students on every single year at the conference. So it is extremely important that we continue to do so.
Absolutely. And as we begin to wrap things up, I'm always amazed at the roster of speakers that you assemble for each year's event. And it's always neat to see folks like Hawaii Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke, who is a huge proponent of broadband, to be able to come and share her thoughts during the event. If you could just give your thoughts on being able to have her as part of this last
Yeah,
event.
we've built a very very close and positive relationship with the governor and lieutenant governor. And as you mentioned, the lieutenant governor has been and keynoted PTC the past 2 years, and
Yeah.
she enjoys. Obviously, it's in her backyard, so it's easy for her to travel to. But the conference and organization aligns with her broadband initiatives that she's been spearheading. And Hawaii is going to be the first state that is going to be fully fiber, right, by next year, by 2026. So she's extremely excited about that. And being able to continue to promote that initiative during the annual conference was extremely important to her. And so the lieutenant governor has been a huge supporter of ours, and we thank her for that. And also, what was exciting is this year, the new University of Hawaii president, Wendy Hensel, we got her right after she started. She started, I believe, at the beginning of January, and she was able to come down and she participated on a panel session as well. So it's another, and she's obviously very technology focused. She's bringing in that initiative on the education side. And so it was extremely positive to have both of them involved, especially this year.
Absolutely. And I have to brag on my good friend Garrett Yoshimi, who
Yes.
is the Chief Information Officer for the university system there, Hawaii. He has a phenomenal team that is doing great things, transforming Hawaii from a broadband connectivity standpoint. So it is so great to see that right where PTC is headquartered, that great strides are being
Yeah.
made to connect everyone in that state. Ryan, it is always a pleasure to be able to catch up with you. This time to look back at the event from January and look forward to circling back perhaps prior to your event in DC this fall to give a little preview for folks of that event.
That'd be great, Craig. Always good to see you. Thanks for your support, and we're gonna either get you in Washington D.C. and or back to Honolulu soon, or both.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Craig.
Absolutely.
Aloha.
Indeed. And on behalf of Brian, thanks for letting us be a part of your day. We'll see you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long.